Alright, so I'm super pumped because I thought that there's supposed to be two waves that can be generated from this VCO, a triangle wave and a square wave, and I thought the triangle wasn't working, but I also had a slight inclination that the speaker I was testing with, this old computer speaker, didn't actually have the ability to hit the range that was required in order to generate or actually make the triangle wave audible. So I've hooked this whole thing up to an old set of computer speakers with a subwoofer I got. Quick and dirty overview. 5 volts coming in over here from like a standard Arduino plug, negative voltage generator, basically a dual rail generator. So this rail up here we're generating +5 or around, and then down here is not quite -5, but it's close. That whole negative voltage is really just about realigning where ground is relatively. Then this whole thing up here is a linear to exponential voltage converter. The idea being, if you have a keyboard that puts out control voltages, they're 1 volt per octave, and this does the conversion to get the output voltage from your power to be the correct voltage, control voltage for the VCO, for the voltage controlled oscillator. And then I've just got this up here. This is just a pretty simple voltage divider, but instead of 2 resistors, it's a resistor and a potentiometer. So really it's more like a trim pot, tiny little thing, but I can come up here and make adjustments to this. You'll see how that works. And then the actual VCO itself is down here with these 2 op amps. Like I said, I have the ability to generate a square wave and a triangle. So we'll do the square first, because that's what I got working first. You don't need a lot of volume. This thing like pumps out. I really have this at like almost minimum. I also have these 2 trim pots. They're for making some finer adjustments. This one really I should tune. This is kind of a circuit in and of itself right here, and the output from this should be a certain value, but you can kind of just play with it, and hopefully that's coming through on the video. It also shakes the crap out of my workbench. There's some finer tuning, but then we can just do a big old pitch roll with this guy up here. So then I can take this, pull it down here. This might be harder to pick up with the phone's speaker. It's such a low hum at low volume. We'll get a higher pitch going here. Gotta kill the volume. And the woofer is just pumping out bass. So yeah, oh, and I also just added in a regular jack, so there's the speaker setup. I'll turn this back off, just get a better view of this whole thing. So yeah, like I said, negative voltage dual rail generator, linear to exponential converter. So if we look, these are power rails up here, the blacks are ground, and then we have power coming over to here, and this exponential converted voltage over here, and then this whole resistor mess. A whole bunch of this stuff has to tie back into itself, so it couldn't be as clean as this. I could have done it, but I had a smaller breadboard. I used my other larger breadboard for a control board already. And then yeah, just this chip right here is outputting the waves. If it's in this rail, it's the triangle wave that's on now, and if it's on one of the ones up here, it's the square wave, and then it's just little headphone jack on the breadboard. So yeah, and, probably took at least 5 hours probably tinkering, and I had the schematic completely wrong. At one point these are dual comparator op amps, and I didn't realize that the schematic was telling me to use a single chip and both comparators inside of the chip, and I had 4 of these along this line, and that was not the correct way to do it. So I had my wiring all wrong. I stripped this whole thing off last night, and around midnight I got it working, and I was generating the square wave with this little thing, but couldn't get the triangle out, and I had this gut feeling that it just didn't have enough oomph. So hooked it up to the old speakers that I didn't care if they blew up. Luckily they didn't blow up. They made some cool sounds, and yeah, very, very bare bones piece of first synthesizer. It's going to take quite a bit to actually make this thing sound musical at all. There's a few filters, a few amplifiers, circuits when I have the time to really dig into this again that I'm going to do, but I also want to get this onto some perf board and solder it so it's all permanent, and then try and build a few more, and you put them together and you get a much better sound when you have multiple oscillators working together. So yeah, that's about it. Simple voltage controlled oscillator out of dual amps, and generates triangle and a square wave.